Hi guys, so this video is going to be a little bit about, noticing uh, if somebody has empathy or not. And I'm going to use just a few sort of personal examples that I've heard from coaching clients or from personal experience. So, if you're dealing with a covert narcissist or a sociopath, you might notice that the empathy that they display, there's something off about it, right? So, when there's an appropriate time for them to show some compassion and empathy, they may not really, it's strange, it's off. They may sort of pat you on the shoulder if they're feigning empathy, or they may sort of give you an expression that they've probably practiced in the mirror. These people often will take videos of people in circumstances where, where they should be, where they're looking at other people's faces to see how people react and what's appropriate display of empathy. They may have, hard drives saved with lots and lots of videos that they've taken of people, so they can study the facial expressions. I'm not kidding you. This is a real thing. If you, there's a book written by an attorney who is a sociopath, and I forget the name of it, but I forget the name of it. Anyway, she was being interviewed on NPR once. I was listening to it, and she talked about when she pulled up her car to a car accident, and there was a mother holding her child that was dying in her arms, and this woman studied the mother's face so she would know the appropriate facial expression to make if she was ever in a similar situation. And that is what sociopaths do, probably narcissists too. And so, but the display of empathy that you may experience, there's something about it that's off. It's like very performative and almost like stilted, and really it's lacking in emotion, right? You'll notice that. And then you'll notice, during the discard, like you could literally be, this is a personal experience of mine, like you could be sobbing your eyes out. You'd be crying your eyes out. You could have gotten down to, in my case, I got down to like 96 pounds. I was, chain smoking. I was starving because I just couldn't eat. It wasn't on purpose. I couldn't eat because I didn't understand what was happening in my, long-term, over 10-year relationship, when a mask came off and I was introduced to a person that I'd never met before that was as cold as ice with no empathy. And I was crying my eyes out trying to understand what was happening. And that person just looked at me with this blank expression, no expression on this person's face, no sadness, no compassion, no nothing. He wasn't even faking the empathy anymore. And I have never been so scared in my life. I was so disturbed by it because I was like, oh my gosh, this person has literally no feeling inside about somebody who is like totally upset over their behavior and sobbing and like really upset. Like I've never experienced that before with a human being. And I did see a lot of signs of that in the context of the relationship, when there were times when there should have been like a very high display of empathy and compassion, in like really dire circumstances with other people where there was, we were surrounded, by death and destruction and grief and loss. And like this person had no normal display of empathy. Like I've never seen anything like it. And, you could just be sobbing your eyes out and they're looking at you with like a blank expression and no human emotion. And you're just like, what in the heck? I never, ever experienced anything like that in my life with another human being. And I realized that before in the past, when there would be needing, a normal, expression of emotion that I was having, and there should have been some sort of like compassion, and there was a little bit, but it was weirdly stilted. It was off. There was something really, really off about it. And that's something that you may experience, this really, low or no empathy, like no compassion, no empathetic response. And intuitively, you probably know it. Like I had a lot of circumstances where, I knew to go to other people for that empathy because intuitively I realized that, there was something missing from this person's ability to provide compassion or support or empathy. They would often show up when it was appropriate, like they would be like at the hospital, or they would be somewhere where it was it would have been inappropriate for them not to be there, so they were there with their body, but their mind and their heart and their compassion and their empathy was non-existent. And I've actually never experienced such a thing, because even when somebody does something bad, or you're fighting, or there's upset, usually people can get in touch with their feelings and their empathy and their compassion. They can do that, and I'd never seen such a lack of that in a human being. I've never experienced it, like I said. Something else that's sort of weird and eerie, I sort of touched on it, but if they're sort of sociopathic or even a psychopath, like they may have like hard drives that are like filled with like all their past like partners, like pictures of all their past partners and like pictures of their current partner. And it's almost like people are just like objects to them that they're like collecting. It's weird. And collecting like photographs of. So that I saw evidence. I saw that and I was like, what? It was weird. But yeah, so I don't know. There's just some weird things that you'll notice, that there's just not an appropriate response. Like, if somebody in their family dies, if they lose like a grandparent, or, if like their parents, lifelong pet dies, like, are they showing a normal expression of compassion and empathy at those losses? Like, are they crying when somebody in their family dies? Are they upset? Are they feeling it? Do they have feelings of grief and sadness when there's, mass destruction of, human life around them? Are they compassionate? Do they feel the pain of other people? Are they able to offer support and compassion? And if not, man, that is a red flag. Like, especially when things are really traumatic. And there was a lot of examples of that where there should have been like a much more, strong, just a display of empathy that just was non-existent. There was just no, and it wasn't like it was just for me. Like I saw that there was this lack of empathy when it came to, anyone who needed, sort of empathy or compassion. And the one that was there was, if there was a display, it was something was off about it. It was sort of cardboard and sort of not sincere. It didn't feel real. It was like a performative. It was like, oh, I'm supposed to perform this dance of compassion. I don't really feel it. My heart is not in it at all, but I'm supposed to perform this way because that's what's expected of normal humans. So I don't know if you experienced anything like that, but if you're staring into the, if you're sobbing your eyes out and you're super upset because you found out that they cheated or they lied or, they did something really duplicitous to you, and you're upset and you're crying, and they are just sitting there stone cold, sober, with no expression on their face, no tears, no sadness, no grief, especially if you were in like a long-term relationship with them. Like normal people grieve. I don't care what the circumstances are. Normal people grieve the loss of a decade-long, 15-year, 20-year relationship. They grieve, right? Normal people, but not these sociopaths, not the narcissists or the psychopaths. Like they're just not in touch with their humanity in that way. They don't have normal empathy, if at all. Most of them just don't have any. And I don't even think they have any for themselves, which actually sort of makes me sad because, I feel like it's, like maybe they just weren't shown empathy as children, or they just never developed compassion and empathy for themselves. So actually, it kind of actually makes me sad when I think about it, because I don't think that they can show empathy to others, but I also don't think that they have it for themselves. I do think they have a lot of self-pity. I did see signs of that, lots of self-pity, but I'm not sure that they have true empathy or compassion even for their own selves. So if you experience this, man, I am sorry. It's really creepy and eerie, and I know it's very unsettling, but there are people out there in this world who are emotionally available, they have empathy,